Good morning everyone, welcome to this video and welcome to my channel. So DJI has officially released their FPV drone and one of my friends has really graciously smuggled it to Mexico for me, so I finally got a chance to try it yesterday morning. I've been flying traditional FPV drones for about 2.5 years right now, and as a professional filmmaker, it's completely changed the game for me. I come from a different background than most FPV pilots because I was a filmmaker before I got into FPV, and the reason that I got into FPV was just for filming purposes, so I'm not super interested in doing freestyle or racing. And that's why I'm so freaking excited that the DJI one is finally out. It's like my favorite cinematic drone company finally made a drone for my favorite type of drone flying. Like I said yesterday morning, I took the drone out for its first flight, so I wanted to take you guys along and not only walk you through the steps that you need to take to get the drone to work for your first flight, but just give you my thoughts and initial reactions to flying it. And then at the end of this video, I'm gonna give you my honest opinion about whether or not this drone I think is gonna change the game. I'm not gonna get super technical into the setup because most of it is super self-explanatory, but let's do it. If you don't care about the setup and want to just hop straight into the first flight, just go to this time code. The DJI FPV is pretty self-explanatory when you set it up, but even for me as an experienced FPV pilot, there were a couple little hang-ups that prevented me from flying in full FPV. So if you're having any issues setting up your FPV or anything, this video is for you. So when you get your drone, there's a bunch of random parts and things in there. Put the SD card in, put the battery in, antennas on, and then download the DJI Fly app. Then at this point you want to turn your drone on. So take this cover off and then press tap once and then hold and it will turn on. And it'll make this insanely badass noise. I think it's super dope, but it also sounds somewhat scary and sounds like the drone's probably gonna take over the world someday. But once you do that, same for the controller, everything should be linked. So tap, hold, same thing. And then for the goggles, you're gonna have a battery pack as well as a cord. So plug the cord in to the goggles and then do the same process, tap and hold. Once all of that is powered on, you're gonna need to plug your phone up to it. So DJI has provided this little connector, so plug this in. Plug this into the other side of the goggles through the USB-C port and then plug it into your phone and open up the DJI Fly app. From there, you're just gonna need to activate everything and get everything updated. You should be good to go in normal and sport mode. However, if you want to fly full FPV mode, there's a couple things that you need to do. If you've never flown FPV mode before, definitely stay in normal and sport mode. DJI released a simulator in their DJI Virtual Flight app that you're gonna need to go in and practice in before you ever actually take your drone to the skies. The reason for that is because if you don't know, FPV is really hard. It's completely different than traditional drones. And if you take your drone out and just start flying randomly, you're definitely gonna crash and just ruin this pretty expensive piece of equipment. So if you've never flown before, download the DJI Virtual Fly app and put a bunch of hours in the simulator before you actually fly. But if you're ready for FPV, here's what you do. So open the back right casing of your controller and then take the Allen key that came with the drone and turn this little screw this direction until the controller doesn't center. Traditional FPV drones have the controller centered, but for FPV, you definitely want that to be stuck in the bottom. And then turn the other one to adjust how smooth the controller moves. After that, you're ready to turn everything on, so start with the drone. So once your controller stick stays at the bottom, now you need to go into the menu and follow these prompts. So you're gonna go to settings, control, remote controller, come all the way down, and change this setting from sport mode to manual mode. Okay, and then one quick thing that you will see I forgot to do in my first test flight is go here. So come back up to the very top of the screen, go over to gain and expo, come down and turn off the M mode attitude limit. So once that's off, you're pretty much good to go for FPV. So I actually filmed this whole video down by the beach, and the reason I did that is because it's one of the only wide open places that you can go down and film. So that being said, the audio is super windy. When I first tested it, the wind was really crazy, but there was no way that I wasn't gonna film and I wasn't gonna fly that first battery. So bear with me, I'm sorry about the audio, but yeah, I had to fly the drone. And by the time I finally got the drone up in the air, it was actually the third time trying to fly it. The first time we woke up super early, and then when we got to the beach, we were actually inside a no-fly zone. So this right off the bat is something that traditional FPV drones definitely have on the DJI drone, is there isn't any no-fly zones. As long as you're safe, as long as you're actually following all the rules, you can fly anywhere. But with the DJI drones, they have all these geofencing technologies. So we got to the beach and we just couldn't film anything. So we had to go to a second location. So we packed everything up, went to a second location, found a second location outside the no-fly zone, and then started flying again. But once I got there, I got up in the air a little bit in normal mode, was able to try and switch to M mode, but it wouldn't let me flip. It would just like stop at a certain point. So I took the drone back and tried to figure out what was going on, but I ran out of data on my cell plan down here in Mexico, so I couldn't research what settings I needed to change. So what you're seeing now is our third attempt at filming the first flight video. So without further ado, you guys saw the setup process and everything. The only thing you need to do more is just attach the propellers. You do red on red, gray on gray, and then you're good to go. So now I'm gonna take you to the first flight video. Cool, so theoretically we should be good to roll. Yeah, I'm so freaking stoked for this. So I'm gonna rip around and just kind of walk you through my thoughts as I'm flying. And hopefully not crash into the ocean. Let's do it. Okay. Oh, there we go. There's full manual mode. Adjusting the camera roll a little bit. Right off the bat, the image is just insanely clear. Wow, this picture is insane. Controllability wise, seems pretty solid. There's a lot of power in this drone for sure. There's a little bit of camera shake for some reason. I'm not sure what that is. And a little power loop, boom. Yeah, this drone is really fun and the picture is just so clear. As far as power and speed, it hasn't felt quite as fast as my other FPV drone that I fly. It's called the Nazgul, but it is pretty decent. All right, so now I'm gonna try the hover mode. So I'm gonna just fly pretty fast and then just press the hover mode and see if it saves it. So I'm going and press, okay. Damn, so yeah, that worked super, super well. So while I'm in the air, switch to M. And to switch into M, gonna have to do this little centering the sticks thing. You basically have to keep the sticks in one spot, and now it's back in manual. Honestly, the performance issues might just be just because it's like super windy out. I'm gonna do a little bit of a range test and go decently far to see how far I can go without losing any transmission. Damn. Okay, so I'm getting a warning on my screen that says I'm going near the no-fly zone, so I'm going to switch into hover mode, okay? And then I can just take my hands off the controller and turn it off, which is something you could never do with other FPV drones, just because if you take your hands off the stick for a second, your drone would pretty much crash. I'll definitely be doing a better range test. Now I'm coming around, just doing a couple unique palm tree shots. Coming around, hanging out with this bird. The only other thing that's different from this drone as my other FPV drone is the control sticks are actually super hard to move. I think mainly because you can switch between like a normal drone mode and then you have to tighten that screw to get into FPV mode. The sticks are like really, really hard to turn, which is kind of interesting. It's not a huge deal, but it would have been nice to not have that. Alright, now I'm just gonna go super, super high up and do a bit of a dive. Wow, this is insane. Even this high with my other FPV drone, I probably wouldn't go just because I'd be scared of losing connection. Now it says I'm unable to enter M mode. Maybe because I hit the height ceiling. I can still control the drone. I can look down and everything, but I can't switch to M. Interesting. All right, I'm gonna try and fly back. Back,
sort of in M mode. It's super wonky when it switches between modes because it makes you feel like you're falling. Okay, we're back in manual mode, and I'm gonna go up high again, but not quite as high so I can do a dive. Zooming down, I'm super curious how the stabilization is in post. Okay, I got a low battery warning. I've been flying for like 7 and just over half minutes now, and I'm at 29%. So not quite as good battery life as advertised. I'm sure if you're flying for like really short, low velocities, you could probably get 20, but I'm only getting 8 minutes right now. And with DJI, it usually makes you come home at around 20. Okay, so I'm going to stop and hover. Take the goggles off, and damn, that landing process is very different than a normal FPV. Cool, you can still catch it.
Le quitas
You
el
need a
cabello.
haircut?
Le quitas el cabello.
See. Come right here.
Alright guys, so just to wrap this video up, as far as the first flight, to be honest, I wasn't as impressed as I thought I would be. Like I said multiple times in the video, I think the super windy conditions definitely had something to do with that, but now also looking at the footage, it's just not stable enough. As far as like Real Steady and GoPro, you can get shots that are insanely shaky on the drone, just come out perfectly silky smooth. And I didn't see that on this footage, at least for that drone. On top of that, there's this really weird warp, like when the drone is angled upwards, it just has this globe-like appearance, and that's just like not really something you want to see on a drone that you're filming professionally with. On top of that, I only was able to get about 8 minutes of battery life, which is definitely a little disappointing considering that they say 20 minutes on paper. Like I said, this could be due to the wind, but I don't think that I would get much more if there wasn't any wind at all, especially if I was ripping really hard. So all of these little things that I'm talking about are definitely things that are only concerning to me because I'm a professional pilot. If you're someone who's never done FPV before and you just wanted to buy this drone to figure out how to fly, get the hang of things and learn, I think it's a great drone. The fact that you can switch between a normal mode, a more advanced mode, and then full FPV mode makes it super easy for people to progress. So if you're a beginner FPV pilot, this might be the right drone for you. Honestly, I just really need to fly it more. I need to fly it in better conditions. So anyways, those are my initial thoughts right off the bat. I'm going to be doing a bunch more comparison videos. I'm going to be testing it a bunch more in the future. So if you're interested in seeing those videos, definitely hit that subscribe button down below. But yeah, that was my first flight. I am really freaking stoked that this thing is finally out, and I'm stoked to test it more. So that's it for this video, and I will see you guys on the next one.